Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast. Episode number 277. I'm fairly certain I got that right this week. I'm not 100% sure, though, and ultimately, it really doesn't matter. The only time it really matters is those big milestone moments, which recently, Dave was interested in letting me know that episode 300 would be coming up this year. Totally unrelated, just a way to segue introducing Dave into the show. Hello, Dave.
How you doing?
How are you? I'm all right.
I think the numbers are important. I think 275 was pretty big. Over 200 episodes, Ben, and you've been on every single one of them except for one back in February. So it's not an insignificant podcast anymore. We do big things here, and we've been doing it for a long time. And
but what makes
you too, Brandon? You've been going for years and years and years now. And rest in peace, Dustin and Phil.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. For quite a long time.
What makes 275 more significant than 274 or 276, though?
It's just a nice round. It's not a round number, but it's sort of like a quarter number. It's a multiple of 25, which is always significant. Don't ask me why. It just is. It's a quarter of something, or 3/4 of something in this case. So I can keep going, but
I want to say that it makes sense. Like those numbers, they're nice, for lack of a better way to say it, round numbers to put a thing on, but they're really not that significant, right? Like, it's just because we want it to be. It sounds nice in our head.
I think it's fun.
Well, it's fun for sure.
It's cool to look back and see how long it's been. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Can I, Ben? Do you is episode 1 somewhere sitting somewhere
that's on the feed?
Perceivably, yeah, perceivably.
It's definitely it's on our feed for sure.
I remember. I don't know if this is an episode 1 thing, but you guys used to do a segment called "You Done Fucked Up."
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I missed that. Yeah, that was good shit.
Yeah,
it would be like it would be most of the show now. Yeah.
Also with us is Brandon. Greetings, sir.
Welcome.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I was just thinking, I don't know why this is reminiscent pod now, but I was thinking about the beginning of this show. It actually started out with you not being able to do every week, and Phil also not being able to do every week. So Dustin and I were there, and it was always either you or Phil, depending on the week. And then Phil died. Not really, everybody. If you haven't been here around for a while, Phil isn't really dead. We just pretend like he is. So now you know, and you're in on it. And then Brandon came on full time. So Brandon, you kicked him out. Did you kill Phil?
No, dude, I could never kill Phil. He's one of my bestest buddies. He died peacefully in his sleep.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've been told.
Phil recently got a gaming setup, and
it's
just
amazing.
like
it's a nice setup.
It is nice, but just like he hasn't been on the podcast or shown his face in a while, he also hasn't gamed with us at all. So he's truly dead.
He did tell me that he got like all the Fallouts, which is cool because I don't know that he's ever played them, but he was like, yeah, I got this like mega bundle and I have all of them now.
No, right. Phil did play one of the Fallouts. I'm pretty sure he played Fallout 4 or Fallout 3 and got to the end of the game or quit halfway through the game and was like, I'm really irritated because I'm walking so slowly. And it turns out that he was actually over encumbered the entire time he was playing and didn't know it. So maybe Fallout isn't his jam. I don't know.
Right.
That guy has more games that guy has the biggest game collection of games that he hasn't actually played.
Oh yeah.
Anyone in the history of mankind.
And I know nobody that has more movies than Phil.
Yeah.
Man has a very family video ass setup. I'm not saying that like in a bad way. I'm saying that in like it's an impressive amount of movies way.
Yes.
Physical media.
With that.
He's a physical media man, and I appreciate that about him.
I do too. He likes his action figures. Enough about Phil. Guys, I built a chicken coop today.
Oh my god.
Well, not really. I didn't build the coop yet. That's for tomorrow. But we built like the outer shell that will contain the coop. So that's how my day went. I built a chicken enclosure. It's not 100% done, but it's pretty close.
Do you use chicken wire?
To produce like egg laying chickens, or are you producing poultry for eating?
I'm not doing any of it. My wife, although that's usually how it starts, and I end up helping. but hopefully she's going to take this one. But she wants them for eggs, and I think she might be interested in butchering some chickens, but mostly for the eggs.
Yeah.
But I got to this point, like it's not been terribly expensive, to get it going, and you get eggs, and eggs are expensive, and these are like literally grown in your backyard eggs, so they're tastier and bigger than the eggs you buy at the store. But I was today at one point I was like, how many eggs do we have to get before we break even on this? She's
Start
like, "I don't
selling
know."
them.
She's like, I don't know a lot. I'm like, well, you only want to get 6 chickens, right? She's like, yeah, to start out with. And I was like, so that's 6 eggs a day. And she's like, yeah, hopefully. And I'm like, what do you mean hopefully? She's like, well, they don't always lay, but they should lay a chicken or an egg every day. And I was like, so we got 6 chickens. We'll get 6 eggs. There are 4 of us. I don't really eat a lot of eggs, but she and the boys do. I was like, that's like enough for the day. She's like, well, there might be some weeks we have to buy more. I'm like, so we're still going to have to be buying eggs while we got these chickens. Spent hundreds of dollars building this enclosure for them. And then you got to maintain them and everything too. And she's like, well, we can get more. And I'm like, well, won't that just increase the cost of how much we have to spend? But anyway, I'm totally fine with it. I think it's a fun hobby, and certainly the eggs will be tasty. But I was just thinking, I was like, this is not going to be enough to be selling them and making money. This is going to be barely enough to make breakfast for the kids.
I love how Ben's business mind didn't clearly didn't vet this enterprise before it started.
No, she's wanted it. She's wanted chickens for years, and I've always told her when we have a place to do it, because where we lived before this, we didn't have enough space to do it. And I was always like, yeah, you can get them. And even still, like, I knew that it probably wasn't going to be like a financially make sense. But there is something like if you, there's a difference between like buying hamburger meat frozen at the store and going down the road to pick some up from your local butcher. Like there's a difference. So I know the eggs are better and it's worth it, but I'm like, this isn't really a cost saving project. It's a vanity project where you get to have some benefit out of it. And that's okay. That's okay. She also wanted to talk about maybe getting some meat rabbits, some rabbits to raise and kill them. And I said, absolutely not. You can do that, but I will not go close to them because I know, I mean, I used to hunt and I have no problem with eating meat and everything, but I know once I see those little bunnies hopping around my yard, you ain't killing them. I'm going to name them.
How big is your yard?
It's decent size. But you don't need a lot of room for chickens and rabbits or anything. Like,
do you have foxes in your area by any chance?
No, not foxes. Well, we do have foxes, but not in the city. But we have raccoons and we have a few other little wild animals that like to gobble up stuff. So that's why we had to get not only the coop, but like a bigger enclosure and then a bunch of chicken wire and like she bought some other wire. And I mean, overall, it's not like it's that expensive. It's just, you got to do a few things to protect your investment.
Right.
Because they'll climb under, they'll crawl underneath it. The raccoons can figure out how to open the locks and stuff. You gotta lock it down. You gotta make it tough for the kids to get into, and then the raccoons still might be able to get into it. Because they're smart. I told one of my kids, I was like, raccoons can like use keys and locks today. He was like, we should put a bunch of fake keys out here. I'm like, that's not how it works, I don't think.
I played Donut County.
I know how this goes. All right. I've been around. Man, raccoons suck. They're so cute. They'll destroy your shit.
Speaking of nature, I witnessed a squirrel steal a baby blue jay out of a nest and run away with it today. I was sitting in my backyard, which isn't huge, but it's big enough to have some nature. And we have a nest of blue jays in one of the evergreen trees. And I just see this squirrel run out with something big in its mouth. And the blue jay was like attacking it, like it dive bombed it like 3 separate times and then ran off. And I'm like, I didn't know squirrels did that. And sure enough, I Googled it and they do eat small birds or sick birds.
Yeah. Dude, it's a squirrely bird world out there.
Dude, blue jays will do the same shit. So I don't really feel that bad.
Blue jays are savage. They're assholes.
They seriously are. Like I've had lesser birds in the yard and watched them just decimate entire small families. One blue jay.
You guys ever see those little killdeer birds? I think they're called killdeer. Yeah, killdeers.
Probably, yeah.
Killdeers. I don't know if there's an S on there or not. They are crazy. We used to have some. We were doing a construction project at the house I lived when I was growing up, and where we put some of the dirt, like some killdeer built nest in them. and they all laid eggs and stuff. And me and my buddies would be like walking around out in the dirt, playing with army men, blowing them up with firecrackers, whatever. And these killdeer would chase us like viciously, swoop in, attack us in the head. It was crazy.
Looks like they're in Ohio, maybe.
In Ohio. Well, they were clearly in Pennsylvania as well. In western Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
gnarly looking.
those. Yeah,
Killdeer.
they got some long ass legs to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Them tall motherfuckers.
Now I gotta look them up. I haven't seen one in a while, but they were definitely killdeer, and they make this terrible sound.
Their beaks look like stilettos. Like they just look like weapons.
Yeah. Got a lot of comments in the chat here about eggs. I just want to clarify. I'm all about the eggs. I'm all about like eating the food you raise at home. Like I think that's really cool. All I'm saying is, let's not fool ourselves into thinking we're saving money. Okay, this is a nice project. Get some good benefits out of it. We're still spending money. Now, if we want to get like 30 chickens, now we're in business. Okay. And my youngest wanted to know why we couldn't get a rooster too. And I was like, well, then we wouldn't have the eggs the same way, and the neighbors would hate us. He didn't think that was an acceptable thing until I told him that roosters are mean, and they actually have places where they fight roosters, and he did not think we needed a rooster anymore after that. So
let him around one rooster ever, and he'll be like, all right, I'm good.
Especially that kid. This is the HP Podcast. We talk about video games every week. We usually do it on Tuesdays. Show comes out Wednesdays for Patreon members. Thursdays on free audio feeds. Of course, we're live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. You can check us out over at patreon.com/handsomephantom. Support us for as little as $1 a month. We really appreciate that. Helps us keep the lights on. It's like 25 cents an episode. I haven't said that line in a while. When you think about 25 cents an episode, a lot of people are asking for a lot more for a lot less, okay? So
Might be a bit of a bonus coming too, right, Ben?
A little bit of a bonus coming up. We got the HP After Dark show that comes out, probably about quarterly, I'd say. And it's a little extra special. You get that at the $3 up level. You get it a month early. It's really just us being grotesquely disgusting. And that's about the best way to describe it. We just talk about whatever's on our mind. Anyway, patreon.com/handsomephantom. We appreciate you over there. You can also hang out with us on Discord, whether you're a patron or not, at handsomephantom.com/Discord. We appreciate you guys hanging out there, talking about bad Ubisoft games and rap beefs. Dave, is it any less of a cesspool this week than it was last week?
What? Oh, Discord. Discord's been.
You made some bold claims.
Very well behaved. In fact, I actually checked a couple times to see if a second channel had been set up for people to talk about Drake and Mr. Lammer.
Yeah.
But it's no, over. I guess the I think 2 more people have been arrested at Drake's mansion in Toronto now.
Yeah.
Good.
So I guess either people have gotten sick of this or it's just sort of simmered out. I don't know. But
Dave, I have to know, in your head, did you confuse Kendrick Lamar / Kenneth Lander with Unjammy Lammer?
No, I thought that's how you pronounce his name. It was
fair enough.
Kendrick Lamar, I assumed, was short for Kenneth, and Lamar, potato, patata, tomato, tomato, near automata. It's all the same, right?
Yeah. There was a public execution, and it's over now. So,
boys, let's talk about some news. A little bit PlayStation heavy here in the front of the show. Herman Hulst and Hideaki Nishino will jointly succeed Jim Ryan as CEOs of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Hulst will lead the studio business group overseeing PlayStation's first-party teams and the development of PlayStation IP into TV and film. Previously head of PlayStation Studios and co-founder of Guerrilla Games, Hulst is excited to push the boundaries of play and entertainment. Nishino will head the platform business group, managing console hardware, technology, PlayStation Network, and third-party relations. Already SVP of Platform Experiences, Nishino aims to connect players and creators through world-class products and services. Both will report to Sony Interactive Entertainment chairman Hiroki Totoki, who has been acting CEO since Jim Ryan stepped down. He praised the new leader's clear responsibilities and focus on expanding PlayStation's audience. The changes, effective June 1st, mark Sony's first time having 2 leaders for the division, reflecting its growth. Also, I wanted to ask you guys, we got 2 new CEOs for PlayStation coming up. Dave, is this just a matter of not one single man can fill the shoes of Jim Ryan.
I just want to know if this was David Wallace's idea, because like who's day to day and who's big picture stuff,
Right,
and which one
right.
does Dwight make a complaint to about Jim bothering him? It's a bit weird, and to be honest, it's a little bit disappointing because I've really been a Herman Hulst fan,
Yeah.
and I've really enjoyed his rise through Sony from, you know, co-founding Gorilla, you know, putting out Killzone games, and then Horizon, obviously, and now he's taking a more centric role with Sony. So I was really kind of hoping that he was going to step in, and I really kind of feel like he's a really smart guy, but he's also for the gamers, which is what I feel like Sony needs right now. So yeah, I think this was a bit of a weird move, and yeah, I mean, I'm kind of poking fun at that you know, stretch in the office, but it does beg kind of a question as to why I'm making that comparison, because it's like, why two leaders? Like it's an odd decision, because ultimately they're going to have two different strategies. They're going to have two different sets of tactics to meaningfully move forward the brand. And I will give Sony credit that the way that they've laid out their two portfolios does make a lot of sense. And I think those two silos can operate in silos, and they can be mutually exclusive for the most part. But at some point, their strategies are going to need to converge. And it's really a question of, can the two coexist? Can they make compromises in ways that will not hurt the company as a whole, and damage the product that they're putting out? And the one area where I could see that happening is Sony's first party offering and hardware. And now two different people are overseeing those. But, you know, when you look at stuff like VR, like at some point, what you're doing with your hardware is going to dictate the first party IP that you're putting out. So
Hopefully.
I don't know. It's a really weird move, and I hope it works out. I don't think you can do much worse than Jim Ryan. I mean, he was a great business guy, but at the end of the day, I miss the cool Sony days, and I don't know if we're going to return to that with these two co-CEOs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
I really think they should have brought in Kevin Butler. I know he's hard to find, he's hard to track down, big paycheck, but Brandon, I'm kind of with Dave, but also this isn't really, for big corporations, it's not really that unusual to have two people in kind of the leadership role. It's just not giving one of them a different name, I guess, in this situation. But I don't know. How do you feel about the changes moving forward? We know we probably know Herman Hulst by name better than we know the other individual, but they're both known entities in the PlayStation sphere.
No, exactly. Honestly, I am excited that Herman is getting to kind of step up to the plate a bit. I think it's good that he's going to be on the more first party side of it. I mean, being a part of Gorilla and the success that he did have with the studio. As far as the two leader strategy, I mean, I don't think it's that abnormal. I will agree that there is a kind of the differentiator, like Dave said, is that you don't want to have like a mixed message between third party and first party and hardware and first party. But ultimately, it's like with a company of this size, I think that it's probably for the best. I mean, we're seeing that in the console sphere that Sony is definitely coming out on top. And I wonder if some of Jim's growing pains at the end were because it was just him. So I think it's probably best for both of them in the end, that they kind of can flex in their own roles a little bit and they don't have to be overextended. But yeah, I think this is good. I'm specifically excited about Herman because I think that, like Dave said, and I agree, he's done really good work, and hopefully continues to do that with the first party. Having like literal direct experience in the first party, I think there is almost no one better that could possibly be a part of Sony's first party at this point. So yeah, this is definitely good news, and hopefully a good change for Sony. It's definitely gonna continue to change and grow as like the landscape, we talk about it every week, continues to change. But yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction.
I wonder if this is not as much of a case of leadership saying, okay, we need two bodies to fill this role. And this is pure speculation on my part, but maybe Herman Hulst says, you know what, I really like what I'm doing now. What if I could just do it more bigly, or bigger? What if I could do it on a grander scale? What if I could, and expand some of those responsibilities? And you've got what's his name? I can't say it. Nishino, who's like already got his niche. So it could have been more of a they wanted someone else to kind of tag team the role with them. And Radek brings up, and I was gonna mention this as well. They had a similar co-leadership strategy, and PlayStation was divided regionally, as he mentions here. Sean Layden for North America, Jim Ryan for EU, and then they combined that into one role. And it's similar, but also like both of those guys were doing the same thing for both companies. And I think to bring it all under one is definitely you get the same exact vision across companies. So I don't know. I don't feel like we've ever seen terrible leadership at PlayStation, regardless. Certainly, as Dave mentioned, we didn't all love Jim Ryan, but did he do the right thing for the company, the brand? Probably. It's financially, because that is what the right thing is as far as the company's concerned. But I do agree that Herman Holst is a bit more of a gamer's man, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of that shine through. But again, the boss can only do as much or as little as the boss above them lets them do. So hopefully they give them free reign and let them both work. Like I said before, we also don't know a whole lot about Nishino, at least publicly. I know he's been with the company for a while, but
isn't he just a businessman?
Yeah,
I was looking it up. Yeah, like even previously before Sony, I'm saying. So like,
yes,
okay,
yeah, and really, I mean, I guess Sean Layden was a little bit more of a gamer, but at least he understood. I feel like he understood gamer culture way more.
Yeah, I like Sean.
But he was still a businessman.
Yeah, I like Sean.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. A little bit more about Sony. Sony has reportedly formed a new studio within PlayStation, staffed by former Deviation Games employees, according to Michael Anthony on LinkedIn. Quote, many former Deviation Games employees have set up a new studio at Sony working on an undisclosed IP. They are top-class developers, and I hope they create a high-quality product without the red tape from previous projects, end quote. Deviation Games, founded in 2020 by ex-Call of Duty developers, never released its planned PlayStation-exclusive IP. Co-founder Jason Blundell left in September 2022, but seems involved in the new studio. JC Farmer, a former Deviation employee, posted in December that he is now a junior game designer at PlayStation Studios, working for Blundell. Deviation Games had over 100 employees in 2021 and secured financial backing from Sony for years. Brandon, we've talked about Deviation and kind of the weirdness that happened there. We talked about it when Jason Blundell left, and basically we didn't exactly know what he was going to be doing. And I'm wondering here if this was just a matter of PlayStation, Sony saying, we don't really need you to be a separate entity underneath it. Why don't we shut you down and bring your IP and the stuff you're working on? Maybe there was some staffing problems that they wanted to eliminate the people from, but since it was technically another organization, I don't know. I'm speculating a lot here, but I don't know. What do you think about this move? What do you think about the potential of PlayStation having a first-party shooter again?
Yeah, no, I love the idea of it, certainly. We talked about how strange this partnership was from the beginning. I mean, you have a company that comes around in 2020, fresh company out the gate. You got some talent, right? You got some veterans in there. And then in 21, we're saying at Summer Games Fest that, we're going to be partnering with Sony. Don't really hear a whole lot. We know who's working with them, stuff like that. And then by 2023, VGC was reporting that like 90 of the 100 employees were potentially let go from the studio. So I'm like, how much of the studio has left? So I mean, that kind of adds validity to what you're saying, Ben, is that like, did they need a whole studio? I mean, it kind of seems like they just wanted to gut it and keep some of the big boys. But I love the idea of a first person new IP coming to Sony. I love it, love it, love it. Obviously, I'm like the first person guy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath. I thought it was weird from the beginning that they decided to partner with a studio that had talent but didn't really have any legs yet. But I don't know. I guess I'm hopeful that Sony knows what it's doing. It's usually pretty conservative with this sort of estimates, but yeah, it's been strange since the beginning, and this is no different to me.
Dave, where do you think this former Deviation team is going to go?
Probably nowhere. It sounds like they might just break up, and I think that's ultimately what this is a breakup. When we talked about Deviation closing down back in March, we had suspected that when Blundell left, he was the money guy, and when he left, the studio just couldn't carry on. But now that we found out that he has gone back to Sony and he's taken some of his team with him, it sounds like Dave Anthony and Blundell did actually have a breakup, and Blundell has gone off to Sony. And the question is did he take the IP with him? Did he take what they were working on with him? I don't know. I'm still excited for this, and I'm looking at this like Deviation, just like I was before, and that this is former Call of Duty zombies heavy developers. So that I'm excited about. And you guys talk about Sony needing a first person shooter, which I'm very hungry for. So whatever they're working on, I'm really looking forward to actually seeing. Let's just hope that Sony has learned from its whole linking up with developers who haven't created anything and have nothing to show and just give us like a PDF splash screen. Right. Let's hope they don't do that this time. Like, don't tell us what Blundell is making until you're ready to show us a gameplay trailer or something. Because it hasn't worked out well for you so far. So
yeah. It is interesting to see, like, from everything we can see, they have a lot of people from Deviation working there, and I don't know about the Sony currently. I know that with every third party they don't do it, but a lot of times when Sony was footing the bill, they were going to also take the IP. So it wouldn't surprise me if Deviation, from the very beginning that we knew about them, they were working with Sony, and so it wouldn't surprise me if Sony was able to say, okay, guess what? The studio, we're not funding you anymore. And then when they break up, they say, okay, well, we're keeping the IP. We're going to take a bunch of your staff and hire them on. And everything you're working on already, we got those hard drives too. We're taking it with us. So there's probably some potential, but I think that probably at the top there was some, I don't know, major disagreement that was something, couldn't be overcome when it comes down to it. So we'll see. I do think it's far, far past time for Sony to have a first-person shooter that is made and published by Sony, a Sony studio. And it's been a long... What's the last one they really had?
Killzone?
Was Killzone the last one?
First-person shooter? Probably.
Yeah. So it's... Granted, the world is full of first-person games, but there's nothing like the marketing push that Sony can put behind it and the resources they can put in there. So hopefully we'll see. Radic in chat says the last one was Killzone Shadowfall in November of 2013. So 11 years almost.
Launch title for the PS4.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. Died a tragic death. Number 3. Square Enix is laying off employees in its American and European divisions as part of ongoing restructuring, according to an internal meeting led by President Kiru. The layoffs will impact publishing, IT, and the collective games division, indie games division, with notifications starting this week. UK employees will have a 1-month consultancy period, while US employees may leave before June. This restructuring follows disappointing game sales and coincides with Square Enix's new business plan to focus on multi-platform AAA titles. The company aims to optimize cost and expand its audience by including titles on Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Recent financial results showed in a nearly 70% profit drop, partly due to canceled projects not aligning with the new strategy. Dave, it seems like we've definitely had not a lot of Square Enix games necessarily be exclusive to one party or one platform or another, but a lot of big Square Enix games be exclusive to one platform or another. And we know that Square Enix has a long history of saying this game didn't meet expectations, even though it sold amazingly. So I don't know what their expectations always are. But the numbers don't lie here. They seem to definitely have gone through some rough times. And I'm wondering what you think about the multi-platform approach as a rule instead of, the exception.
I think Square Enix is still very well positioned to continue its multi-platform approach. I mean, granted, the way that the Xbox PlayStation race has gone over the past several years, it Maybe not, but I just look at Square Enix as a multi-platform developer, as a true third-party developer. So I hope they always stick with that. You make a good point about their expectations, which always seem to be really high. We've talked before on the show about the business strategy of being, under promising and over delivering. Well, Square Enix always seems to do the opposite of that. Granted, the last little while they've published some stinkers, so it's not surprising that in this day and age that they're seeing some layoffs just like everybody else is. So, but the most concerning part of this story to me is their divestment of their indie portion of their portfolio. Just because the indie market seems to be so saturated right now. And I think one of the things that's helping a lot of indie creators is these larger publishers putting in some investment to these indie games, and to see a big player like Square Enix basically cut that part of their business right out is a little bit concerning for an already dire situation. It will be interesting to see what the trajectory is of other big publishers. Similar initiatives are. I'm thinking about like EA Originals for one. How that looks in the next few years, because when you see someone like Square Enix drop out of supporting indies, it's not really a good thing. And I know every year we get a couple of indie darlings that just come out of the woodwork, but for every like one Lethal Company or Hades or whatever it is there's hundreds, if not thousands, that just get buried on storefronts and you never even hear of. And Ben, this is something I shared with you on Twitter, that it's actually gotten to a point where a lot of indie games are having to launch in early access or rely on Kickstarters, or even launch with discounts. So launching at a discounted price up to 20% just to either fund their projects through to completion or to even launch. So I don't know. I said this a couple of weeks ago, but the golden age of the Xbox Live Arcade is way behind us, and it's just a little concerning when you see big players like this kind of pull out of the indie scene. And as I said with the EA thing, I hope we don't see too much more of this. But yeah, a friendly reminder to support some indies now and then, because they're not getting much help right now.
Well,
Brandon, what are your thoughts on Square's new approach? And also, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on indie games currently and where they're headed. You've not really, not the derail, but as a brief aside, it's only been in the last few years probably that you've really gotten much into indie games. You used to be pretty much a AAA exclusive gamer.
Sure. No, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I guess moreover, as far as Square goes, I guess Foam Stars didn't do it as well as they thought.
I don't think Foam Stars really hit the mark there. No.
Oh man, they put all their eggs in that basket, huh?
They put a few of them in there for sure. And PlayStation helped them pick up the basket while they were at it. Yeah.
They foamed everywhere. No, yeah, I mean, this is not surprising with the massive amount of cutbacks we're seeing across the industry. I think it's especially not surprising that it's happening to indies, just because I feel like they really are a gamble. And I don't want to say it's like a charity thing, but I feel like the big titles are usually the big payoffs, usually. And Dave even said it himself. I mean, you can invest in, a dozen indies, and how many of them are going to make their money back? It's hard to say. It's really a gamble with any game, but when you have established IP like Square has, it's a lot safer of a bet to bet on that than something new. So even though I don't like this, I think that indies are good. New IP is good. I think that some of the best games ever made were made by small studios and not big ones. This isn't surprising to me whatsoever. And I would honestly and unfortunately expect more companies to do this sort of thing, unless they're very, very sure of what they're investing in, because the little guy doesn't always pay off, and that's unfortunately just the way it goes most of the time. But yeah, I don't know, guys. It's just more bad news. It's every single week we're seeing companies have to cut back, and really it's just the general plateau of the industry, I think, at this point, and a little bit of a downward swing as things continue to grow. So yeah, it sucks to see, and I definitely don't want indies to hurt, because the small guys are the ones that need the money the most, for sure. But Yeah, I don't know. Multiplat is also good. I didn't even touch on that one since I've been talking about Multiplat is good. I know they've put a lot of their stuff out on other platforms, but everything they put out should be everywhere, and they're going to make a lot more money doing it. And if that means that they can fund 50 more indies in the next 10 years, then I think that's perfect. Put it everywhere. Nobody cares. Final Fantasy can be anywhere. Just do it. So
I think their real downfall started when they made Life is Strange.
honestly, that was like
It was the
the
beginning of the end.
the cancerous tumor on the whole thing.
Ben,
Yeah.
I just looked this up, but Power Wash Simulator was published under the Indie Collective
Yeah.
initiative by Square Enix. So,
Sure was.
Dude, and
biggest game of
Forspoken.
your life.
And Forspoken. Oh
Yep.
my god, I forgot that was Square. RIP.
I wonder if Power Wash Simulator, it seems to be such a big hit that I don't even know that they needed Square, other than maybe some funding, of course. But it was like such an addicting game for so many people that I wonder if that really, how much that helped them. It's obviously given them tie-ins for them to be able to do DLC, but a lot of their DLC, specifically with Square properties, has been free.
Yeah, but what
Like the
about
Final
SpongeBob?
Fantasy. SpongeBob, that was free DLC. No, that was a paid DLC. That was. But the Final Fantasy DLC was free, if I remember correctly.
Do you get to power wash Tifa?
No. Tifa's not in Power Wash Simulator.
Not interested then.
No, it's not that kind of simulator.
Missed opportunity.
Trash.
I didn't
See,
realize that the simulator games weren't a franchise. They've all been made by different companies. Maybe not all of them, but
Not
I just
all of
looked-
them. but
Lawnmower Simulator is a completely different. I think you played that one too, Ben. That one's a.
I did not play that one as obsessively as I did Power Wash Simulator, but
But
I
you
did
did play
it. Yes.
Dude, Car Mechanic Sim's lit too. I don't know if you guys have
Yeah.
tried that.
Yeah, simulator's just it's just a genre. It's not even it's not a franchise or anything.
Right.
I'm looking back through some of the last Square Enix games, and yeah, there's a lot here that just did not hit the mark. Even the big ones, even stuff like Crisis Core, when they remade Crisis Core, it just did not make the sales it needed to. And Octopath Traveler 2, what a weird decision that they launched that game on PlayStation exclusively. Well, I think Switch as well had it. But Octopath 1 was Xbox exclusively, or Nintendo
Switch.
maybe only. Switch.
It was
Switch
Yeah, I would
exclusively.
say it was Switch. Yeah.
It's weird to launch a sequel exclusively on one platform that the previous game was not. I don't know if that was a money thing. I'm sure it was a money thing. But I guess the bigger point I'm making here is, for the exclusivity conversation, is the money they're getting. So let's just say, there's no way that they're publishing Remake and Rebirth on PlayStation only because they want to. It's certainly because PlayStation has given them money to do so. Apparently that's not enough money to make up for the sales that they've lost. And those are just, big games as an example, not even smaller ones. So I don't know. Ed says if Nintendo published Octopath 2 like they did Octopath 1, Octopath 2 would have sold better. I think that's probably true. Octopath 2 apparently is a great game by all standards. It just didn't sell very well, which is a shame. It's a shame that it didn't sell because, like I said, by all accounts, it was amazing. Let's move on to number 4. A little bit of happy news here, kind of. Number 4, Warner Brothers is giving back control of Steam pages to some developers previously published by the defunct Adult Swim games. We talked about this a little while back, that they were going to take them away. This is a change from their March stance when all Adult Swim games were set to be delisted. Developer of Duck Game announced on Twitter that the game will stay available and return to its original developer, Corpdrun. Similarly, Owen Deary shared that his game, Small Radio's Big Televisions, will not be removed and ownership will revert to him. Super Mega Team, developers of Rise and Shine, also confirmed receiving the same news from Warner Brothers. Originally, WB had told developers like Matt Kane of Fist Puncher that games wouldn't be transferred back due to resource constraints. However, this recent change means affected games will keep their Steam reviews and presence. Adult Swim Games, established in 2005, published titles like Robot Unicorn Attack and Jazzpunk. The delisting of their Steam pages would have erased years of reviews, but transferring ownership back to developers, turns out, can be done easily. Dave, I think this is a pretty big W for not only for indie games to get their games back, to get their listings back, but for WB the killer of all things fun to make this change, make this adjustment, and I guess read the room, as it were.
Yeah, I wouldn't really paint them as the hero here, but
Yeah.
you're right. This is two happy endings to two stories that maybe happened in the same week, or were close together with the deviation thing and now this. But yeah, this is great to see. I think the resource constraint thing was absolute horseshit, and I, as you said, Ben, I think they maybe just didn't read the room properly initially when they thought they were going to get away with this and delist all of these games. We just talked about how hard indie pub developers have it with just trying to have their games see the light of day. So to delist them and have them lose all of their work when it comes to reviews and any goodwill they've built up is pretty heinous. So I mean, this is good that the gamers, the developers have risen up, as a lesser show might say, and indie developers have won. So this is good to see. But I mean, we said this when this story originally took place earlier this year, that hopefully this serves as a warning to indie developers to not kind of sell their soul over to a publisher if they don't have to. And again, I know a lot of indies have to seek out that funding and that support from publishers, and they don't have a choice. But if you just kind of read the tea leaves and understand what control you're really giving away to a company whose interests, their best interests, is not the same as yours. The old saying is, won't somebody please think of the shareholders? It doesn't matter about your game that you've worked on for years and years and years to put out. At the end of the day, especially these publishers who are part of bigger conglomerates. I think about the Embracer situation, all the people who worked at Coffee Stain as an example over the past year, watching everything come crumbling down with Embracer, and luckily that has panned out pretty well for Coffee Stain. But just at the end of the day, if you need a publisher, just be careful, because you're kind of selling your soul. But yeah, I'm happy this ended out in a fairly positive way for all of the indies.
I just have to pause a minute and shout out. We got this is the official Mad Catz Twitter account in the chat tonight. Appreciate it. They sent us a mouse and a keyboard a little while back, which I talked about at the time, but shout out to them. We've talked about Mad Catz actually a considerable amount before and after they sent that. Before they
Absolutely,
contact, so.
Absolutely.
In good and bad ways, old bad ways, new good ways, whatever. So, absolutely. Brandon, though, your thoughts on the Adult Swim developers mostly getting their games back for the most part?
No, I feel like this is a very uncommon W for this small guy. We talked about how shitty it was, and I said it back then, and I'll echo what Dave said. Me always going after Dave, but literally when we talked about this the first time, I said that excuse is bullshit. It's just pure bullshit. And we've known how scummy WB can be in the past in all ways, and how non-consumer friendly they can even be, let alone the people that are under their umbrella. So this is definitely an uncommon W. And I'm always happy to see it. Honestly, most of our shows nowadays are filled with just gut-wrenching type shit, with layoffs and studios closing. So to see something like this, and to see that these developers that are even from a smaller publisher are able to keep the reviews that they work so hard to aggregate, is huge. It's absolutely massive. And I'm honestly a huge fan of Adult Swim in general. So the fact that Warner Brothers did the right thing was definitely good. Even if it was just PR, I will take it this time. I will take it this time. And hopefully other studios that, see this sort of thing and are making considerations in the future can kind of just see what happened and kind of learn. So
Dave said we definitely shouldn't look at WB as the good guys in this situation, and I think that's 100% accurate. Because let me tell you, I've told you guys before, I have access to the Steam backend. I publish games on there. I interface with it on a semi-frequent basis. It is easier to transfer ownership of a game, of an IP, to another publisher. There's a couple little hoops, but it's relative. It's like 4 or 5 button presses, as long as you're both interfacing. It's easier to do that than it is to delist a game on Steam. So for the idea that they didn't have enough manpower to do more or to do less work, that was just a BS answer entirely. And you're right about these indie games, because the biggest chance for an indie game to get positive or any reviews, positive or negative, no press is bad press, I guess, as they say. But the biggest time you're going to get that is when a game launches. If your game goes down and all that goes away, and you have to republish the game, and not only do you have to figure out how to contact people who have purchased your game in the past, you have to convince them to go on and leave a review, which isn't that much work. But how often do any of the three of us do it?
Right.
I very rarely leave a review for a game, even though it's very easy to do. It's a huge undertaking. So the fact that just, if I scroll across a random game and it came out 8 years ago and some indie publisher I've never heard of the game, but it's got its reviews there, I'm going to buy it. If I do the same thing for a brand new game, even though it's not brand new, it's just relisted, and it's got 0 reviews, I'm going to be way less likely to buy it. So it's a huge thing to be able to keep those reviews, keep those aggregates of everything. So big ups to them. And I don't know that many of these games probably had listings on things like Metacritic or OpenCritic even. But when your scores go away, if your scores disappear from Steam or from like the user scores, if they disappear, they also disappear on those aggregates. So you're losing that data in more than one spot, and it's hard to get it back. It's hard to build that trust back up. So, all right. I think that's it for the news for tonight, unless either of you guys had anything to bring up. Let's move on to what we've been playing. Brandon, you're up first.
Yeah, mine is the least exciting. I'm just doing more of the same. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm continuing to play Counter-Strike, having a ton of fun. I am warding off the case fever. It's literally, quite literally, like probably the closest thing to a slot machine in a video game that I've ever experienced. And it is a lot of fun. I did it once. I spent like $5. That's all I spent. And yeah, I think I'm good. I have Prime now, so I get the weekly skins. In fact, in about an hour and a half from when we record this, I will be getting my new weeklies, and I'll be able to get new skins. So that'll be fun.
You literally have it counted down to the minute, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's like at 9 p.m. and it's
okay.
8. So, but no, that's been a ton of fun. Just continuing to kind of suck at that game, but I don't know. It's like hit and miss. I don't know how the SBMM works, but it's like I will be top frag or pretty close to the top frag one round, and then the next round I'll just it's just like Call of Duty. I don't know. It's no different. Sometimes I do good, sometimes I do bad, but what's that?
I think the biggest difference is you're playing in some rounds against people who have literally played nothing else for the last 15 years.
Right.
That's why.
Right. Yeah. So I don't get too turned about it. It's honestly just a lot of fun. And the skill gap is a lot of fun to try and I don't know. I'm feeling myself grow as I continue to play. So that's a lot of fun. But
yeah, I think let me cut in there. I played a little bit with you and intend to play some more. I have the ever coveted 10-year badge because I probably logged into that game a long time ago and played for an hour and never went back. But it's interesting because I've only played the game sporadically and very rarely ever watched anybody else play it. It's so interesting how people know the lines in that game and the call-outs so well. But more interesting than that is that there are still new strategies being developed for these maps that have been in this game for over a decade.
Right.
That's so impressive to me that such a simple game. It's literally you pick guns and you shoot people. Right. And you pick some smoke bombs and stuff like that. But there are still new strategies being made today and people improving on the game and everything. So I find it really fascinating for sure.
No, yeah, I feel I think I said it before, but you could probably play 2,000 hours to that game and still not be as proficient as you could be. So it's cool, man. It's really cool. And it's difficult in a way that other shooters that I've played have never been. So that's kind of cool to kind of be familiar with something or a type of game, but then not at the same time. So no, but that's been really good, and I'm still playing Stellar Blade. I am slowly but surely working my way towards the platinum, which I'm almost positive I'm gonna get. I'm 75% done with the game, but I've been incredibly thorough. My first playthrough is going to be full do everything I possibly can play through. And then you actually do have to complete it a second time on New Game Plus, but the New Game Plus ending is like the opposite. Like, you don't have to do very much to do anything. So you could just speed through the second half, which is a lot of fun. And as I've continued to play it, it's just gotten more and more fun. I'm fishing in the video game, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but I love fishing in real life. So I always love fishing in video games. So the fact that I'm fishing in this game is really awesome. But yeah, it just keeps building on itself in wonderful ways. And I'm having a lot of fun. So looking forward to grinding that out. Although I'm a little bit nervous. I finished the Fallout show. I'm gonna have a little bit of an aside right now. I finished the Fallout show, which was amazing. I really enjoyed it. If you guys have not watched it, watch it. Whether you're a fan of Fallout or not, watch the show. It's great. But I want to play Fallout 4 now, and I need to finish Stellar Blade before
Did you never play
that.
Fallout 4?
No, I did, but I want to play it
Oh, okay.
again.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
After watching the show, I'm like, I want to, especially after the update on PC and shit. I think you could do
Right.
120 hertz now. Like,
Probably.
it's more stable or something. I don't know. But nonetheless, what I'm trying to say is I need to finish Stellar Blade, and I want to platinum Stellar Blade. But I'm also, the clock is ticking on the Elden Ring DLC, approaching me quickly. So I'm like, I would love to be able to squeeze in the Fallout 4 at some point, but ultimately that's probably gonna have to wait. But enjoying Stellar Blade, would love to play Fallout 4. Having a lot of fun with Counter-Strike. But yeah, that's about it, boys. That's about it for me.
Nice. I'll go ahead and go next. Besides a little bit of CS2 that I played this week with Brandon, I've also continued to play Sea of Thieves, as always. The new season continues to be great, and the different things that are happening with some of the new mechanics that they added in are a lot of fun. But I talk about that game all the time. I play that game all the time. This week I finally wrapped up, actually last night, wrapped up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Whoa.
Damn, dude.
I
How
know,
many hours?
it's been...
How many hours?
So I clocked, I think the total for my first very thorough playthrough was 98 hours.
Okay.
With that said, there are probably about 3 hours of that I technically didn't play. I think I left it open, but the clock actually stops running if you're in the pause menu, but there was one time where I know I wasn't in the pause menu and I had to step away.
Right.
So I finished it up. I absolutely loved it. I'm very glad that I was as thorough as I was. It was very much worth the wait. And then I immediately after finishing it just started Googling stuff like crazy, like trying to refresh my memory on a few items from the original, and as well as, find out what the prevailing theories are for everything. So a lot of thinking been going on in the last 18 or 20 hours or so for me, with trying to mesh through my feelings on the game. Overall, I very much enjoyed it. And I've talked thoroughly about this game. There are some issues I have with it, but none of the issues that seem to be prevailing for me. I like the ending as far as I can tell, and it's I'm so glad that I played that game. I haven't played it in years, but I played the original so many times as a kid and just adored the hell out of that game. And just to be able to have this kind of payoff now, having played that, I still think it's a game that you could enjoy easily without ever having played the original. But there's so many things in this game, so many more than the original remake. The original remake is like, yeah, if you played the original, it's great, but if not, whatever. This one, I feel like if you did not play the original game and you did not play Crisis Core or anything like that, there's so much you're missing with a lot of the stuff they go into. So I still think it's enjoyable without doing that, but I feel like my enjoyment was heightened because of it. So I'm going to put it down for a while. Eventually, I think I'll go back in, and I pretty much did everything you could do with the exception of like some of the trials, the combat simulator trials. Those are things that I'll probably, I'll go back to. I never had any aspirations, as I mentioned before, of getting the platinum, and I understand it's a really tough platinum, and I probably would be better off continuing to push for it, but I need to move on to something else at this point. And I think that's going to be Mass Effect, because I need to play Mass Effect before the end of the year, and right now I kind of don't have much else on my docket to play. So I am probably going to move on to that next. I've also been playing a little bit of V Rising. This is a game that's been out in early access for a couple years. But a couple months ago, my buddy Brad and our friend Dustin and a couple other guys were like, "Hey, we should get together and play this when it comes out in 1.0." So I've been playing that, and it's it's a combination of it's like if Diablo met Valheim or something like that. Like there's sort of survival crafting stuff in it, but it's also very point and click and use number buttons. So you're a vampire and you have to be able to sustain yourself by being a vampire, while also taking out bad guys and crafting and building bases. And it's got a lot of the stuff I like. So this is definitely a game that I'll probably only play this game with other people. It's definitely not a solo game for me. I'm sure I could get lost in it if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to continue just to play in shared worlds with other people. And I know there are like huge servers out there full of tons of people that, go through wipes and everything every couple months. And that's probably not going to be what I do for this particular game. But regardless, I'm having a blast with it. And if you guys, if anybody wants to check it out, let me know. I think it's
like $30.
I think the base game is like $30, and then there's some expansions. There's a Castlevania expansion and everything. So, and I'm sure you could pick it up cheaper on Aniba or somewhere like that. But that's pretty much all I've got going. I downloaded the Mass Effect, what's it called, Ultimate or Legendary Edition,
Trilogy,
so that it's ready to go on my hard drive when I'm ready for it, which I'm hoping will be this week. I'll
Hell
get
yeah.
started and dive it in. But Dave, until you're done with Nier Automata, you're going to continue to be last and the sweetest little bit of our show. But what have you been playing this week?
So 3 things I'll point out here. First off, at the end of last week, I talked a bit about Hades, or we talked about Hades, and I said I was going to go back to the original and try and it was kind of a Principal Skinner situation where I'm like, am I out of touch or is it the children? Because like I played this game when it came out originally and I just couldn't get into it. So with all the hype around Hades 2, I had to jump back in and just see if it's me. And I've learned it's not me. I don't like Hades, and I'm proud to say that. And there's a lot I love about this game. It looks great. It's got a style to it that's unmatched. It's fun to play. Like the moment-to-moment gameplay is really cool, and trying out the different weapons and abilities. But just the inherent repetition, I cannot get over. And I know this is it's part of rogue likes, but I've played games in this genre before where it didn't have this much inherent repetition. I'm thinking about like Cult of the Lamb, where you do have to go through a singular dungeon like several times, but eventually you unlock immediate access to the second set of or the second dungeon, so you could just kind of go straight into that. Returnal, a game that I haven't actually played, but I know like once you beat a boss, you don't have to fight that boss every time, and you can just kind of go through the biome. And I think once you get like halfway through the game, that's your starting point, is the fourth biome or whatever. So I don't know if this is the difference between like a roguelike and a roguelite, where one of them you actually start from the very beginning every single run. But I went on Reddit and I just I needed to find some validation, and there was a lot. What was interesting was there were people who were saying, I understand the issue you're having with repetition, and I had that too, but once it gets your hooks into you, you get addicted, you get hooked to the run. And what I do think Hades does is it does, like, there's a lot of story development every time you die, and you go around and you talk to NPCs, and every time you talk to them, you know your relationship with them changes, and obviously you change your abilities and upgrade and stuff. So I think it does a lot well there, but it just I've given it a solid 5 to 7 hours. I think that's enough for me to say I'm good to move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Hades.
You're quite the counterculturist these days, Dave. You don't like Hades and you love Skull and Bones. Like,
dude, he called us brain dead or whatever.
Okay, hold on. The people who are saying they hate Skull and Bones have not played Skull and Bones. So
Correct.
they're the same people who
didn't play Hi-Fi Rush.
Exactly, but Champion did. So,
but they had the opposite reaction.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not trying to be I'm trying to be a culturist, because I've taken 2 kicks at this can and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
Anyways, Elden Ring. I like many people have. Oh, hold on, Brandon.
No.
I've obviously Elden Ring is front of mind. We've got Shadow of the Erd Tree coming in 3 weeks or so.
It's creeping up, baby.
and I've been thinking about jumping back into the game and starting a new character. And I started a new character. I think it's the warrior class, the one that starts with two swords and no shield. And I got to tell you, playing this game without a shield is kind of like playing on hard mode, especially for me who hides behind a shield. And that's like, I'll creep around corners in a dungeon and I'm just waiting for something to jump out at me, but I've got my shield up. But when you don't have that, it's like it's a whole new level of anxiety. So yeah, I just jumped in just last night and I just kind of ran around. I'd really like to explore more and not, kind of go through Lendel, I think it's the first area it's called, and do a lot of the dungeons and stuff. But the problem I'm having is I played for a bit and then I backed out to the main menu and I was just like, let me just make sure my save is still there. And my original save is gone. it's gone. And I don't know where it went. I don't recall ever deleting anything like this.
You're playing on PlayStation?
I am playing on PlayStation 5. And I called Herman and he didn't answer my call. But so I went to my backups, and sure enough, because I have not maintained my PlayStation Plus subscription, when I go to backups, I get a paywall that says, hey, do you want your backed up saves? Just pay us $12 and you can have them. And as you guys know, homie don't play that. So
oh shit.
It might be worth it for that though. For your Elden Ring save.
Dude, it's the principle, man.
Yeah, I know.
Here's the thing is I think I'm gonna be out on the DLC, at least to begin with. Like I'm sure at some point in the next little while I'm gonna want to play Skull and Bones or Call of Duty or something, and I'm gonna get a month of PS Plus, and at that point I'm going to check my save, and hopefully it's just a matter of I back up my save and it's back on my PlayStation locally. But in any case,
it should be.
Yeah, just a bit of a sad state for me. And hey, maybe I'm thinking, since I played last night, I've been thinking about Elden Ring a lot, so maybe I will do another playthrough. But just fun fact, I don't know if this is official, but apparently you need to be level 150 to start the DLC, or you have to have beaten Moog, which was an optional boss in one of the hardest areas of the game. There's something like that.
These are all rumors. These are all rumors. They're rumors.
Okay, so nothing's been official.
Nobody knows.
That I know From has always been really weird with their DLC, and like you can't just load up and jump into the DLC. Like I think it was Dark Souls 1 had the infamously famous masochistic set of steps you had to take to actually get to the DLC. So I guess they're doing that again, but like it would be kind of cool if people could properly prepare for the DLC that they're going to be dropping $50 for. But there's
no preparing. From what I've heard, it's almost like Sekiro, where like you can't over level. Like it puts everyone essentially on the same threshold. So like you can have your character and you can have your build. But from my understanding of what I've seen is that it's going to put everybody kind of like starting in some way in the same place.
Okay. Well, I wonder if they'll have a way for you to, I don't know, fast track it. Like for me, like, do I have to play the game again?
I'll help you.
Yeah.
I got you, baby.
Anyways. So yeah. And lastly is Nier Automata. So last week when I was on the show, I mentioned that I had been spending some time on side missions just to get a little bit more used to the combat and the general mechanics of the game. And funny enough, somebody in our chat who is a big Nier Automata supporter said something surprising to me, which was don't get bogged down in the side quests. And I was really surprised to hear that because I knew how much this person liked Nier. So after that, I jumped back into Nier and I just stuck to the golden path. And I think I now understand why that person said that, because this game is so well paced. It's like a Michael Bay movie in that you have no second to catch your breath. Like it's just like it's I don't know, it's just like crazy boss battle to like crazy encounter to like really epic moment to like I don't know, there's no downtime. Like there just isn't. And it I guess a playthrough takes about 10 to 12 hours, but it feels like a lot shorter than that because you're just so engaged all the time and everything is constantly changing around you. So I finished my first playthrough. I have ending A now. And yeah, I loved everything about the game. I know I'm not finished yet. I still maintain that the art design in the world, in the main area and in the desert area, like when they had gone to the meeting that day when they were pitching like aesthetic design, I think their printer ran out of color ink and they just printed out their color palette in black and white. It is so flat. And you can say to me, well, it's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic world, it's supposed to be depressing and stuff, but like we've seen post-apocalyptic worlds being done very interesting before. I think about games like Horizon, and I think about games like The Last of Us, and I don't know, that was a big miss for me. And there's examples in the actual game that are so well done, like the the little robot village and the amusement park, that are so interesting to look at, but the main area, the ruined city that you're in, it's just so flat, and I hated it. But other than that, I had a great time with this. But I have one concern. I was aware of the multiple endings this game had, but for some reason I had it in my head that the endings, the additional endings, played out more like an epilogue. I did not realize that this game actually required 3 playthroughs.
Kind of.
Minimum. There's many playthroughs.
What I'm hoping, Ben, is can you know how I feel about multiple playthroughs of game, and I started the second playthrough where I'm playing as 9S, and I'm kind of seeing that it's the same game but from a different perspective, kind of like Resident Evil. But I also know that for the majority of the meat of the game, 9S was right beside 2B. So am I not just going to be playing through the exact same game the second time?
So playthrough A and B, I think, are the most similar to each other. Okay. There are a lot of differences, and there will be things where you're like, I could have sworn that 9S and 2B were right by each other during this part, and they aren't. So there's a lot of repetition for sure. It will take you less time to go through B ending than it did A, even without the side missions. But once you get to C and further, it's such a misnomer for people to say this game has multiple endings and that you have to play it through multiple times, because you're not really playing the same game through multiple times at all. It's like if they did The Last of Us 2, but good. And you know how you play Last of Us 2 from multiple perspectives and you play this, the same game? It's not like that at all. It's very different. So no, I don't think you'll get tired of it. I could understand through the B run, you could be like, wow, okay, I already know this. But once you're done with that, everything goes very quickly and from a very different perspective, and I think it will enhance your enjoyment a lot.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I assume that third playthrough was going to be that one android that showed up just for a second, and you only saw her once in the story, so I figured that would be a different thing. But okay, that's cool. I might take a little break and go back to finish Gears of War. No. Okay,
don't. You'll regret it. I promise you.
Okay.
You'll regret it if you take a little break, because not only because it's such a different perspective, a different story, but because, well, one, you're going to want to know what's happening by the time you get to the end of B, and two, they're so short in comparison to your A and B runs. They're so short in comparison that if you leave and come back, you're going to be like, wow, I should have just finished that before, because you'll forget things. And I promise you, just stick with it. I mean, you can still play other stuff at the same time, but I wouldn't go away and come back, because by the end of B, if you ended up dropping it or dying before you finished it, you'll regret it for eternity after you're dead. So you don't want that to happen, Dave.
That'd be bad.
Ed says, Dave, push through B run, you're at the quote worst part of the game relatively, and I would agree with that. I think it's still phenomenal, but I think that it's if you put a gun to my head and said cut one of these, it'd be B. It'd definitely be B. So get through it and you won't want to stop. Unless you suck, in which case, who knows? That's all we have for what we've been playing. Very invested in Dave's playthrough of Nier Automata. Also, we usually wait till we're after done with the show, but I actually was thinking of this already, and Ed typed it in chat. Infamously famous as the show title, so that's probably going to end up being what it is. But thank you all for hanging out again live on YouTube every Tuesday night, YouTube and Twitter every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. We appreciate you hanging out. If you listen on free feeds, you see it Thursdays. If you want to get the show on audio feeds a day early without ads, go over to patreon.com/handsomephantom for as little as $1 a month. And again, don't forget about the Discord where you can hang out, handsomephantom.com/Discord. Whether you're a patron or not, we appreciate you guys hanging out there. I think that is all we have. We'll stick around for just a couple minutes, but other than that, we'll see you next week. Ed said, Riz says, are you wrapping up? And I'm just joining. Damn. Yeah,
Ooh.
sorry, buddy.
Watch the VOD.
Watch the
Check
VOD.
it out.
Listen to the audio. Indeed. The infamously famous PlayStation CEOs. No, infamously famous is enough. Yeah, definitely enough.
Sorry,
yeah.
Ed said something about Dave, don't pay. They hold your saves for 6 months. They're probably gone now.
Does it let you see what saves you have and just won't let you access it? Or okay.
You can't even see them.
Yeah. Yeah, then in your case, if it doesn't, if you're not desperate to get your save, I would just wait until you resubscribe for something else and check it out.
This is getting out of control.
Can't you just transfer all of your cloud saves like onto your console? And
you can if you have Plus, but if you don't have Plus, you can't access them to even download them.
But as Ed's saying, they could not even be there. So if I paid just to get my saves, I just don't understand what happened. So I went into Elden Ring. I just hit new game, started a new character. And I kind of thought, like, this isn't going to erase my save, right? Like, it's still going to be there. And I don't know if that's what did it, but it... I don't know.
No. New game will just, like, put you into a new character. There should be, like, if there's no option to load, if there was no option to load character prior to you doing it, then you didn't have a save. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
Has there been a 6-month stint where you... Because I wonder if, like, every time you have re-signed up for PS Plus, if it like refreshed that 6-month timer.
Maybe.
So why is all of my save data not just automatically backed up on my console by default?
Mine is. That's what it must have been a glitch.
So if I don't think I've been unsubscribed. I don't think I've gone for 6 months being unsubscribed from PS Plus. So if you're saying that if I've maintained a subscription or not had it gone dormant for 6 months, or if I didn't touch that save, like I'm not sure which is which, but I'm pretty sure I've not ever gone 6 months without PS Plus for at least 1 month.
If you've been unsubscribed for 6 months to PlayStation Plus, Sony deletes your cloud saves. That's what he said. So
does Ed work for Sony? Is Ed Herman Hulst?
No, he's autistic.
Pardon me.
Things.
Pardon me.
Yeah, I think if you haven't been unsubscribed for 6 months straight, you should be okay. But I only know that number from Ed. I don't know if it's actually 6 months or not. But if it's 6 months and you have, and I would imagine it like refreshes anytime you were to sign up.
Yeah. Because it'll just like reinstate those already saved things. But if you're gone for 6 months, then they're fucking gone.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Did you look in your console storage just to make sure like it wasn't there somewhere?
I did. I didn't look thoroughly, but I went and checked, and I have an SSD hooked up, but there was nothing there either, and I don't know why a save for a PS5 game would have gotten to my SSD.
Dude, you're scaring me. But I'm going to get rid of PlayStation Plus whenever mine runs out here. Honestly, probably in a couple months. I'm going to have to check all my saves before that because I cannot have what happened to you happen to me.
This also happened with Ghost of Tsushima. So this is not the first time.
But that was a different platform, wasn't it?
I mean, same accounts. I thought I transferred everything over. I understand it's a slightly different set of circumstances, but still
Right.
kind of a mystery. Any chance you've ever backed up your PS5? Not that I recall. No.
I know.
Anyways,
I know multiple people who had that happen with Ghost of Tsushima. By the way,
we're getting lost in the weeds here because I know everybody's excited for Shadow of the Erdtree, but more importantly, Deep Rock Galactic Season 5 comes out in June, and one of us has to play that at launch for Carl.
I'll hop in with you, Dave.
Now I'm on
we have it on Steam now.
Dude, I'm on like every fucking platform. So wherever you want to play, bud. PS5, Xbox, fucking I have an account on everything now, apparently.
Yeah.
And none of your saves transfer over.
None of them. They're all unique. I love it. I love it that I have to restart every single time I play
you have
it
a
somewhere
different
else.
main on each console.
Yeah. Seriously, it's insane.
All right, boys. I got to roll. We're going to end and then upload, and then we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging out.
Bye.
Bye.